welcome back to Deep in the Heart of Texas 4-H, the official Texas 4-H podcast. We're back after a brief break in our episodes, but we are back with a very fun and important and just a topic we appreciate a lot around here. So, without further ado, I've got some awesome guests, Lisa and Laura. How are you guys today?
You're doing
Doing
good.
great.
Good, good. Glad to have y'all. So go ahead and just introduce yourselves. Tell us who you are and why you're here.
Lisa, I'll let you go first.
Okay. I am Lisa East. I am a 4 H volunteer in Upshur County. Um, and I've been volunteering now for 16 years.
Oh, good. Well, my name is Laura Hebinger, and I am the Senior Extension Program Specialist for Volunteer Development. It's a big old mouthful. But I have been in this role as the volunteer specialist for the agency almost 6 years. September 1 will be 6 years. Mind blowing to think that I've been there. I always say the first year and a half doesn't count, because I had a baby and COVID and all of that. But anyways, I've been in the role for 6 years. I was a District 4-H specialist in Stephenville and District 8 for 11 years. And then I was a county extension agent in Texas for 2.5 years, and then in Indiana for 7 months. I like to joke that I have worldly experience because I worked for extension in another state for all of 7 months. But anyways, and then I also serve as a volunteer myself. And so I wear, my work hat, my volunteer specialist hat, and then I wear my volunteer slash 4-H mom hat a lot of times too. So best of both worlds, maybe, or crazy how they overlap, right, Lisa?
Right, exactly. Yes, they definitely do that.
Yes, yes. Awesome. Well, yeah, thanks again you guys for being on and just because of the timing of this episode before we really go any farther, I do want to say that our hearts continue to go out to everyone in Texas who has been affected by the flooding in many areas of the state at this point. And so we do continue to extend our hearts out to those affected by that. So,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's a
okay. Well, what we do here before we get started is talk about what they talk about in a coffee shop. How's the weather where you ladies are today?
Hot.
what's it like in East Hot? Oh, my computer says it's only 80 degrees outside for us here. I'm in,
Well,
yeah.
it's been getting up into the mid to upper 90s here. Now we have had some showers in the afternoons, thankfully in the area, so that cools it off a little bit. But um, during the day, it's very humid, very
Yes.
muggy.
Yes. So humid. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
your College Station is the worst.
yeah, it's decently, we do see a little bit of blue skies right now. I'm looking out my window, which is a nice change. But it is so humid. But last night
Yes.
we walked outside after the rainstorm and it was really nice outside.
Hmm.
The kids have been sick, so we went and got them. We were like, just stand in the sunshine for a minute and take in some vitamin D.
Not a bad idea. Yeah, my husband went to go mow,
Absolutely.
not last night, but the night before, and we knew there was a little chance of rain. No, it was a hard rain shower. I mean, not very long, but there went mowing, right?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Had some
Mhm.
ruts of mud out in the side yard, but
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah. Oh man. All right. Well, like I kind of mentioned before, we are talking about 4-H volunteers today. Um, and really how they keep this program going because 4-H wouldn't survive
Mhm.
without 4-H volunteers. Let's be honest. Agents
Absolutely.
can't do it all, and the youth rely on our volunteers so much, and parents do, families, specialists, agents, everyone. We really rely on these volunteers. So, we want to get into you know, what they are, how they work, why you do it from the perspective of you, Laura, as a volunteer specialist, and also a mom and volunteer, and then you, Lisa, as a volunteer. So let's just start out with, baseline. What is a 4-H volunteer?
I'm kind of curious, Lisa, what would you say, as a volunteer, as a 4-H mama, what would you say?
Um, I would say a mentor. Um, we try to guide our club officers, try to let them take the leadership roles in our clubs. That's what we want them to do, grow in leadership and maturity. So as far as a club leader, that's what I try to do, is just be a mentor and a guide for my club managers. In my projects that I lead, I would say again, a mentor, a teacher, um, just just someone to be there for the kids, and for the parents. We are the ones that give them, the parents, the
Yes.
information that they need, as far as contests and projects and county shows, fairs, things like that. So I think we wear many hats, just like you said earlier, Laura.
Yeah.
We do. We wear many hats depending on the role that we play in the county 4-H program.
Yeah, for sure. Um, when I do a training for new employees, a lot of times I'm supposed to talk about, volunteers across the agency, not just 4-H, but we always end up talking about 4-H because that's what everyone wants
Of
to talk
course.
about when we talk about volunteers. But I always ask them, okay, so when I say the word volunteer, what do you think? And a lot of those words that you just said, mentor and service and teacher and those types of things are the words that our new employees say. And hopefully our more experienced employees say the same things. But that is, I don't know, that is so true because um, you almost have to have that servant's heart, right? To be a 4-H
Yes.
volunteer, you've
Yes.
got to be the educator, the teacher, the mentor, the coach, the bus driver, the paperwork person. You
Yes.
kind of you have to do it all. And I know that sounds like, oh my gosh, there's too many things, I can't be a volunteer, but you find your niche and you find, I don't know, where you fit in. And what's really funny is I have some, like I said, I'm a club manager myself because,
Mhm.
I'm crazy, but we ask a lot of our club managers. So I will say thank you to anyone who's a club manager because I
Yes.
know we ask a lot of you because I'm doing it myself. And
Right.
and we've created this really cool little club and group of parents that have signed up now as volunteers. When I first inherited the club, I was literally the only parent enrolled. And we created this space for other parents to come in and help. And then they show up and they just do. And
Hmm.
I don't know, it's just amazing. It's fun to see how they have not only have their kids have grown in the program, but to see them as volunteers come and help and do other things. Now, again, I'm still the one that's probably planning most of it and bringing all the paperwork and all that. But when they get there, they're willing to help, or they'll call a few days ahead of time and willing to help. And to me, that's a volunteer, just someone willing to pitch in and help wherever they can. And some people have, all this time that they can give, and some only have a sliver of time, and we'll take it all. We'll appreciate all of it. Now, when I go put my work hat on as a volunteer specialist, there's different ways that volunteers can come to us in the program, and like we mentioned club managers, and those are probably like the workhorse, right? They're the ones that get the most, that do the most in a sense. I don't know. I say that, and then there all these caveats come in my mind. But then you can be a project volunteer, right? Like you mentioned, Lisa. So
Yes.
you help with what projects do you help with, Lisa?
I am the sport fishing
Oh yeah.
project leader, the wildlife and fisheries or natural resources, and also the photography project leader.
Okay. So yeah, so you can do that too. So you can be a club manager and you can be a project leader, or you can do one or
Right.
the other. Yeah, we
Right.
have, I know you've talked about on the podcast before all the projects that we have, or a lot of the
Yeah.
projects.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, you can be a leader in that little area, in that subject matter area where you have an interest or knowledge, or you can be kind of like what I was describing with those other parents. They are an activity leader, right? They show up to help when we're doing a specific event or specific activity. They're not forever in that one role. I say forever. You
Right.
don't have to be it forever. We'll take what time you have available.
Once you're here, you're here.
You're forever. Right, Lisa? You're here forever.
Right.
Okay, so Lisa, you talked about what projects you're helping with, and then you said 16 years?
Yes, I have been a volunteer for 16 years. My oldest son joined 4-H in 2009, and so I've signed up to be a volunteer, and I've been, oh goodness, I can't remember what year that I took over the club manager role, but it's been several years, and um, then I've been doing the sport fishing and the natural resources, the wildlife and fisheries, and photography projects for several years also. Just because those were some that my kids were interested in, they were involved in. I am by no means an expert in in any of those,
Mhm.
but my kids had an interest in it, and so I decided that I would start those projects up in our county. And I consider myself kind of a facilitator. I can bring in
Yes.
people who do know more information on those subjects to help teach the kids um, at what they need to know. So I consider myself more in a facilitator role in a lot of those areas.
Yeah.
Plus, I can share the information, and the knowledge that I have. But
Yeah. And
so
I feel
yeah,
like
it's
that's a common a volunteer can go either way of being kind of more the facilitator role or being
Mhm.
the subject matter expert. Like there's both in the program,
sure.
and you end up being the subject matter expert after a number of years of being said
Right.
For sure.
facilitator.
Right.
But
Yes.
Sitting through all the
okay.
trainings with the kids.
Yeah, yeah.
That's me with
So
robotics. My kids are interested in robotics. We've got the stuff, but I'm not an engineer. It's very obvious I am not an engineer. But my
okay, so
kids are
Laura,
interested.
on
So,
that thought, put on your mom hat. What do you like what projects are you a volunteer for?
oh, sure. Food and nutrition. I help coach our kiddos with a food challenge. During the fall, we end up with a table set up in my living room at least 2 or 3 nights a week, and we're cooking. And so we're coaching food challenge, and then I also help with some food show, contest on that end too with the food and nutrition project. We've got some kids interested in fashion and interior design, so I share, like this much knowledge that I have about where I learned about fashion and interior design, clothing and textiles, sewing was when I was a 4-H'er, 1,000 years ago. So I don't have any formal training, so everything I learned through 4-H, and share that. So those are, and then like I said, I'm kind of the robotics leader ish, maybe. Um, and like you said, Lisa, like being a facilitator, like you said, photography. We have a few kids interested in photography, and I'm more of a, okay, here's some information, there's some trainings over here. I'm not providing any
Right.
of that. I'm sharing information.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
so, and then we've got kids doing speaking projects where I guess we haven't really done formal, trainings, but we try
Mhm.
to share information out as best we can.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um,
So you guys brought up a point I want to hit. If a new volunteer is coming on, they're probably going to say, what does this tangibly look like? As a volunteer, like when it comes to logistics, what am I actually going to do? So what do volunteers like actually do? We talked about the mentorship and the leadership, but you just mentioned, Laura, like I hand them resources and say, here are some trainings.
mhm.
In terms of just kind of the tangibility of this, what do volunteers do?
Good question. No, okay, so I putting my club manager hat on first, right? And Lisa, add to it what I guess I miss here is, um, I'm making sure I get the agenda put together, right? In communication with the officers, hopefully. I text the officers about a week in advance saying, hey, this is on remember, this is what we planned back in August. We all sat down around my kitchen table and this is what we planned. And so, uh, Claire, you're in charge of this month. Kason, you're in charge of this project this month or the icebreaker. So we plan all that out. And I send them those reminders. I gather the supplies. I make sure I have the sign-in sheet and I have picked up the key for the meeting room and then I get there before everyone and I'm generally the last one to leave, so but people come and they come and help set up the tables and chairs and they sweep the floor and take out the trash and like I just have to manage making sure all that gets done. But again, now I've got a good group of volunteers, other parents there that'll start to do those things, right? And so that's like, in a club manager. And then we got to do the chartering paperwork. And when I get home, I've got to make sure that I scan the sign-in sheet and send it to the extension office, right?
Hmm.
Um, And then when chartering comes in, we got to make sure we get all the finances stuff in order. Once a month, the bank statement comes through. So, and our little local bank, they charge you if they send you a paper statement, but you have to log in once every 30 days, not 31 days, to make. So I have to log in at least twice a month. I log in there. I've got a little reminder set on my calendar, and I go log in to make sure I don't get kicked out, because otherwise I'd have to, a whole thing. So, just
Right.
like those little day-to-day things that we take care of. But then, like, as a project leader, sometimes I don't know, I think that's more intense in a sense, when it comes, especially like when I'm talking food and nutrition. We're getting together for meetings, for practices, for workshops. So like they all want to cook, right? Like when we get food, they all want to cook right away, and they're like, "Ah, knives!" And you're like, "No, no, no, time out. We got to do a little bit of education first." Or they just want to start cooking, and they're like, "Do you know what this is? Do you know what a main dish is? Do you know what this ginger root is that I'm putting in front of you?" Like, so you've got to have some education in there first before they go and do. And so it takes some coordinating. If I'm really good, I plan it out, but usually I'm flying by the seat of my pants when it comes to weekly food practices. But I mean, like with the club manager part of it, like when we sat down in August, we've done the last several years and made a plan and who is in charge. Oh my gosh, so much easier.
It does. It makes it so much easier. I've started in our county, a lot of our clubs don't meet during the summer. Their last meeting will be in May, and then they won't start back until September. But I have started with my club officers continuing to meet each month so that we have that time
Oh.
to plan out, because they've got the meetings scheduled anyway.
Mhm.
So we meet and plan out the following 4-H year, because we elect our officers in May
Hmm.
for the next year. So then we have the summer to plan the next 4-H year, and the topics of the educational programs, and who's going to lead the pledges, and who's going to be
Hmm.
in charge of any games, or things like that. So I think that makes it so much easier, and it gives the officers, the kids, ownership of the club. And
Amen.
that's what 4-H is about. We're all about building these leaders, growing the leaders for the future. And so I think that gives them the opportunity to grow in that leadership capacity. And it's really helped me, because at first I wasn't doing that. I was the one planning all of
Hmm.
the programs and what we were going to do. And it's made it easier on me, and it has helped my officers to grow in that leadership capacity. So
What do you do for your other projects that you talked about? How do you lead project meetings, workshops for like photography or sport fishing or?
I typically do just project meetings. Well, I say project meetings. For fishing, we fish. I find somewhere, usually I try to do private ponds, because if you're on public waters, then of course the adults have to have their fishing license, and not all of these parents have, a
Oh,
fishing
yeah.
license.
Yeah.
So I try to keep it, either state parks or private ponds. But I get a location, and then when we first gather, I'll do a short demonstration on how to tie a Palomar knot, or um, on the best practices as far as casting. We've got the backyard bass casting game, so teach
Uh-huh.
casting skills to the kids. We've done how to make a lure wrap out of duct tape and Velcro. Just a short educational activity, and then we fish. I'll say, okay, you've got this area that you can fish, and I always try to let them, tell them if you catch something, let me know so I can come take a picture. Because we've got so many kids that haven't ever caught fish before, so a lot of them they're catching their first fish,
Mhm.
and that
That's
is just
awesome.
the best. Oh, it's the best. As far as photography, I try to give the kids all of the information for all of the photography contests that are coming up, whether it
Hmm.
be county, district, or state. And we will sometimes go on photography field trips.
Yeah.
If it's for, say, the colorful flowers photography contest that we had in District 5, then in the spring, we'll go to excuse me, an arboretum or a
Mhm.
nature preserve, or we have close to us, it's called Mrs. Lee's Daffodil Garden that's
Oh,
open,
fun.
yes, in the early spring. And so let the kids take pictures there that they can enter into these
For
contests
sure.
and try to, give them some tips and pointers as we go. This last year, I had a meeting for photography where we were teaching the kids how to take pictures of animals. We were planning on partnering with a rescue that where we could take pictures, the kids could take pictures of the animals, that
Uh-huh.
were
Yeah.
for rescue, and then the rescue could use those pictures to post on their social
That's
media
awesome.
or wherever. And so we had a photographer come in, and we brought in one of my dogs, and so
Mhm.
the kids got to take pictures of Lady, and
We had
so
a dog named
that was
Lady.
fun. Yes, so that was fun. But again, kind of, facilitating whether I need to bring in someone who has the skills and the knowledge in a certain area,
Mhm.
um, or if it's just something where we can go and just have a photography field trip, have fun
Mhm.
doing that. So those are just some of the things that I do.
Yeah.
Cool.
I feel like the equivalent of, Laura's, knives when the kids first get there is your, fishing pole with a hook on it. So
Exactly.
yes.
Safety first.
Yeah.
I'm thinking shooting sports, like they make them all sit down and do safety
Oh,
before they bring bring out any sort of
Yeah.
um, item that they are using to shoot with, whether it's
Mhm.
the
absolutely.
bow
Yeah.
or the rifle or the BB gun or the pistol
Yes.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Safety first.
Yeah,
Mm,
yeah, shooting
for
sports
sure.
volunteers, you have a few extra steps, for your
And horse
volunteering, so
too. I mean, gosh.
Okay, so we're gonna switch gears here and get to kind of the warm and fuzzy side, because if you don't have a heart for it, you're probably gonna burn out and give up pretty quick. So,
Yeah.
what let me first ask, what was your why when you started, and is it the same as your why now for why you volunteer?
You go first, Lisa.
Well, I think, of course, when I started, the why was my three kids. They wanted to
Mhm.
join 4-H. I was not raised in 4-H, so I didn't have any 4-H experience, but they wanted to join, and so I said, Okay, let's do it." So that was, I guess, my why in the beginning. Now it's just, I think, the joy that I get from seeing these kids. I mean, I've been doing it for 16 years. I've seen so many kids graduate out of the 4-H program. But it's just the joy of seeing them grow and become leaders in their communities. And that's my why. I just love watching these kids grow and mature and becoming, adults in their communities and watching
And you were
them.
a part of it, right? Like you
Well,
helped them
I
grow.
hope, yes, I hope that, that that's the case. That's my hope. And when I see these 4-Hers that have graduated out of the program, so many of them, they will come up and they will give me a hug, and they will, say hello, and just, that they remember, I guess, the me during their, growing up years,
Mhm.
and I hope that I've made a difference in some small way in their lives. So that's
Definitely.
my why.
Yep.
It's awesome.
Yeah, when I started, when my daughter started third grade, why when I mean, I'd signed up as a volunteer and 4-H online all these years, but my daughter joins 4-H third grade, so I started attending meetings, and there was a couple of other club managers for the first couple of years, but their kids were graduating or moving on to other things, and they were ready to move on. They'd been doing it a while, and so I kind of just got like they had this whole conversation without me, and then they's like, okay, here you go, you're going to be the club manager next year. I'm like, oh, I wasn't planning on doing that because the my role and all the things, so I wasn't planning on doing that. I but I ended up inheriting that. I say that I was a project leader for those first couple years, helping mostly just my daughter and her team, that type of stuff. Um, but it so like I was kind of dumped there. I was going to do it regardless, right? Like I grew up in 4-H. My dad was a county agent for a few years, and so it's just it's bred into me. I was going to do it, right? My parents are still volunteers. My little brother turned 41 this year, and my parents
Wow.
are still volunteers in the 4-H program.
Wow.
Part of who we are, I guess.
Yeah.
But um I'm telling you, I like that you use the word joy. Like eh, I leave those meetings when practice is sometimes stressful. Let's put it that way. We're
Oh,
focusing on a contest.
right.
Practice can be stressful, right? But you leave those meetings and you're just like ready to burst. Like
Yes.
it's so I don't know, it's so rewarding
Yes.
um and in talking with other volunteers, again, putting my work hat on, I'm talking with other people and the things that they're doing and they're some of them are really good at fundraising, right? And so
Mhm.
they're going out there and they want to raise as much money as they can so that they can pour it back into the club and they can go do cool things. There are some people who are really into livestock or really into horses or shooting sports. And so they're excited about it and they're sharing that knowledge and passion with others. Kelly, do you remember last summer when we had our 4-H faculty retreat? We went to the shooting sports complex in San
Yep.
Antonio.
Mhm.
And the one gentleman who helped
Yep.
teach us to shoot,
Hmm.
he was an amazing volunteer.
Yep.
He had that knowledge and skill, I
Hmm.
mean, to a T, but he was the most patient gentleman, right? Like that's the word I would
Yes.
use to describe him, a gentleman.
Yes.
And he was so patient and
Hmm.
so such a teacher. And it was really awesome. And so for him to do that with us as adults, I
Yeah.
mean, like only imagine the impact he's had on kids to
Hmm.
help build that confidence in something
Yes.
like that. And just it's just awesome to see that. And to know
Mhm.
that we can make that difference. And then again, when I put my work hat on, to see all of those volunteers bringing that joy, bringing that growth, that confidence, the competency to those kids when they go do things is just amazing.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You both brought up, joy and rewarding. So I'd love to hear, Lisa, you talked about those kids you're impacting. Do you have a favorite story or like memory of an interaction with a specific kid over the years that is just kind of your favorite memory of being a volunteer?
You know, I can think of a couple. I have one little girl in our fishing project, and for several meetings in a row, she was coming. She's got three sisters, plus all the other ones in the project, and they were fishing. They were catching fish, and bless her heart, she had not caught a fish, and she was getting so discouraged, I think, but she never gave up through each meeting. She had that line in the water. She was trying so hard, and I just kept telling her, okay, that's why it's called fishing and not catching. We're not guaranteed to catch anything. And she was just so diligent and just stuck with it. And then finally, at one of our meetings, she caught a fish. And I mean, it was a little one, but she was so excited. And the smile on her face made all of it worth it. It was just, she was just so excited. And, seeing the smiles on these kids' faces when they catch their first fish. I've got so many pictures of my fishing kids where they've actually caught their first fish, and that just the joy on their faces. And then also we've got a young man who has graduated out of 4-H several years ago. He was around the age of my oldest son. They did shooting sports together. And recently I ran into his mom, and she was telling me that he's working oil field. She said, he is not a manager. He's not, a higher up. But when he is on site, when they do have the big bosses come, his bosses actually have him greet the higher
Oh, wow.
ups because he has that poise and that confidence. He's, that firm handshake, looks them in the eye, is able to communicate well with them. And she said he learned that in 4-H. He learned that from the 4-H volunteers, the 4-H leaders. And she said he is able to be confident and successful in that.
Mhm.
And so that just
That's
warms my
awesome.
heart. And of course, every time I see him, in and about town, he always runs up and gives me a hug, and says hello. And so those, I guess, are probably some of my favorites
That-
I
from my
love that.
4-H experience.
That's very sweet. Love that. Okay, Laura, I want to hear you. You brought up our wonderful shooting sports instructor last year. So, do you have a favorite story that you've heard as the volunteer specialist of something that, a volunteer's done in a county? Um,
Oh gosh,
Something really
I've got
remarkable.
some challenging stories. No, I'm just kidding. Somehow we
We'll
remember
leave those
the
out of here.
yeah, yeah. Sometimes we remember those negative things a little bit easier than the other ones. But um oh gosh, so many. I was trying to think, when we kind of ran through a list of potential questions, your favorite story of a volunteer, and I'm thinking, gosh, I don't so many different places. But like we have there's a volunteer who is kind of a foodie interested in cooking and barbecue and those types of things, and he got so into it he organized weekly practices for food challenge at a local community center, and they I mean, like the whole county, almost the whole county, all their food challenge teams came together to one location, and he coordinated weekly practices. And small county only had a few food challenge teams, but increased it, from like two teams participating to like 6 or 7 teams participating at the county level, just by being that person in the community that's always making those connections and providing the availability. And again, he wasn't doing all the coaching; he was kind of facilitating and doing those things. I have another thought, another volunteer, um, their club name, I think it was called Community 4-H Club. Um, and their whole thing as a club, their whole shtick was to do service, do community work out in the community. And so she really guided those kids through looking for needs in their community and then organizing something to go address those needs. So
Mm.
it wasn't us sitting around the table saying, just bring canned goods this meeting. We'll just do this meeting, right? It was, they were really looking around their community, looking for things to do. And she really helped those kids. Honestly, she was the other person I was thinking of calling as a potential volunteer for this conversation.
Hmm.
I never did pick up the phone and call her, but um, those kids, they may have had a servant heart to begin with, but it really nurtured that and really grew that, and they really see the difference that they can make in their community, and then it opens their eyes to look for those ways to make a difference. And so I just think that's just super impressive how they went about doing stuff like that.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's awesome. So maybe someone's listened to this today and thought, you know what? I have something to offer. How do they become a 4-H volunteer? What's that process like? Should they reach out to their county agent? What should they do?
So that's generally one of the first places I would say is, I get emails a lot of times. Hi, I just moved to this area and I want to help. And they're, clear across the state from where I live, or even clear across the state from College Station. And I'm like, okay, so the first thing you need to do is talk to your county extension agent or someone in that county office. Now, some of you might not know your agent, or you might have a vacancy or something, but maybe there's another 4-H volunteer, because that's how a lot of people put my personal hat on. They've come to me, they see me at the club meeting,
Mhm.
and they ask me as the volunteer, how do I get to do this? And so a lot of times our current volunteers can help guide them through that process too. But call your county office, get to know your county extension agent and the support staff in the office. And I say agents plural, and get to know them in the office and tell them what you have to offer, how you think you can help, and they can help fit you in and plug you in. Is there an existing program? Do we need to expand, and grow a new program? We have an interest in photography, and we've got some kids. I'm a volunteer with interest in photography. We've got some kids that are interested in photography. We don't have a leader. Can you help guide them? Like, woohoo! We've got, it's all coming together. And so if you're interested in that, or show up, or if your kids are there, I'd encourage you to sign up as a volunteer, because you can help in small ways. Like I talked about, you can maybe help organize that fundraiser, or be on the committee to help organize the fundraiser or the service project or something. You don't have to do the big heavy lift like some of the things that Lisa and I have talked about. You can do all of that. And then of course, we ask all of our volunteers to apply annually. Our 4-H year runs September 1st through August 31st, although we open enrollment generally around August 15th for the new year. So a couple weeks before the official start of the year. But all volunteers pay a $10 application fee, and that includes the application itself. We'd have a couple of required trainings online. I know that one of them is in the state statute. Like, we have to provide that one, and I think we have to also provide an orientation. And so both of those are in there: the child protection training and the volunteer orientation. You get to listen to my voice for 20 minutes on the volunteer orientation. And then,
Such a lovely voice.
oh, shucks, shucks. And then the other one is the background check. That's the other piece of the puzzle, is we do a background check. And that background check, I always say it, if you're the parent dropping your kid off, that the volunteer there has had a background check. Like, we've checked them, we've vetted them, and they've been approved. And then on the flip side, when it kind of protects all of us, right? That you're leaving there in good hands, and then I know that you're comfortable with that, or hopefully you're comfortable with that. Of course, we love for parents to stay. Don't just drop them off and run. We love for you to stay if you can. But yeah, so that's the component. And every year you have to reapply, and you cannot volunteer until you've done all of those things. And it's in 4-H Online. The last step is for your county extension office to approve your enrollment. And so they have to approve it, and your payment has to go through. We have to get you $10. If we don't get that, then you're not fully approved, and then
Right.
you're not covered on insurance and all the things like that. And so we want to make sure that if you're volunteering, make sure you get that done every year, because that's very, very important. All the legalese stuff that we have to take care of. But
Yeah.
yeah.
And I would encourage all the parents to sign up as volunteers, because there's always a role, there's always a place for all of the parents. One of the things when I first started, of course, I enrolled as a volunteer, and then several weeks later, I had gone to the extension office, and our extension agent asked me, "Why weren't you at the adult leaders meeting last night? We missed you." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not at that point. I was not a club leader. I wasn't a project leader." And I said, "Well, I'm not technically an adult leader." He said, "No." He said, "You are a volunteer, so you are an adult leader in our county." And I know that in Upshur County, and I'm sure in all of the other counties, we need those volunteers. We truly appreciate every little bit that they can do to help make our program a success, even if it's just helping pass out paperwork, or if it's just helping maybe take pictures at a club meeting or a project meeting, because the project leader or the club manager is busy during the meeting.
Yes.
And so if just something as small as that, or helping, like you said, Laura, set up chairs for a meeting
Mhm.
or help sweep the floor after the meeting. We need all of those volunteers, and no effort, no job is too small for
Absolutely.
to be able to help. And I think a lot of parents don't realize the value that they have.
Mm.
And um, so I just
Yeah.
encourage all of the 4-H parents to
Yeah.
sign up as a volunteer and just help out
Yeah.
because we can always use all of the help that we can get.
Yeah,
Couldn't have said it better
absolutely.
myself. Sign up. We need you. We want
Yeah.
you. We'll appreciate
That's
you.
not the first
Yes.
time on this podcast that we've talked about parents doing it with your kids. In the multi-generational family episode, all of them said, we do it together. 4-H is something we do together. So I love that you brought that up. But ladies, I think the three of us could sit here and talk for a while. But
Yeah.
to keep this timely, with the rest of our episodes, I think we better wrap it up with just saying thank you for giving of your time and your talents and everything that you do for 4-H and the kiddos that you impact. And thank you, Laura, for leading the volunteers to do that across the state. So you guys are really making a difference in the lives of kids. And for all the volunteers listening, that thank you is definitely extended to you as well. 4-H wouldn't happen without our volunteers. So glad we could talk about this very important topic today. Um, Before we wrap things up with Lisa's top 4-H tip of the day, only date to remember right now is that Clover Cash grant through Texas Farm Bureau for all of you 4-H leaders. So check your emails for the information on that. And Lisa, do you have
Yeah.
a top 4-H tip for us today?
My top 4-H tip, as far as volunteers, it would be get involved, be engaged, make memories, because when you are involved and engaged, you are making memories with your kids, and you'll never regret getting to spend time and make memories with your kids. That that's something that will they will hold dear, and you will hold dear. So
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Love it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for being here.
Thanks for having us.
thank you. Yes, thank you for having us.
We'll see y'all next time.
All right.